We're delighted and very honoured to have the Minister for the Arts with us today, and to talk about the role of government in music and culture. Please give a big Nokia Music Connects welcome to the Honourable Simon Crean, MP.
Thanks very much, Jasper, and I can see I'm overdressed here. I have been offered other functions, and you can come down for the mosh pit later if you like, if we get going. But it is a pleasure to be here today as part of this festival, part of AUSFest, which is really about taking the Australian culture and arts and the creative arts here in India, but also developing the fusion and the collaborations which are so important and so exciting. I should say to you as an industry that I know that not too many will be directly interested in the Asian White Paper, the Australian Asian White Paper, but you should look at one important recommendation in it, because we have been successful in ensuring as one of the 25 key objectives in Australia's engagement with the Asian Central, the concept of cultural diplomacy, and using the arts and the creative industries to establish much more effective people-to-people relations, but also to deepen that cultural engagement. Australia is a very interesting place. It's home to the oldest living culture on earth, a culture which itself is producing some of the most exciting new art forms on earth, not only in terms of the visuals, but the performing arts. And I had the opportunity the other night to hear the Black Arm Band perform again, and they've become more of a brand than they have a band, because they keep introducing new talented artists and great originality in terms of their instrument playing. But it's one example. But the other thing about the Australian our approach to it is, not only are we home to the oldest living culture on earth, we've been welcoming to the greatest diversity of cultures on earth. And so therefore there is an appetite for inclusion, for respect for other cultures, and experimentation in other music forms. We also know that the relationships that are built on the arts and culture are often the basis for greater understanding and trust between our two nations, and that in turn can provide an important strengthening of our economic ties, and for that matter, even our political ties. The other day, as part of this cultural festival, we farewelled 5 authors who are travelling on a train across India. Indian authors and Australian authors. Not just working on the collaboration as they go, but taking with them a library of Australian books to interest the communities they visit, not just in our stories, but the importance of reading and literature and the like. So it's a creative way of doing something pretty special. We need to do the reverse in Australia, and we're looking at doing. And the lunch that I just held is looking very much at how we can combine not just the authors, but the film and the music industry. Because here in India, a lot of the generation of music is through the film industry. It's not necessarily the case in Australia. In fact, it's much more creatively driven in Australia. But if we can tap into those platforms for engagement and stronger collaboration, I think that would be a great thing. We're proud of the diversity of our cultures, as I said before, but we're also, as a nation of great music consumers. Australia, for those in the Indian audience, if they're not aware, is the 6th largest music market in the world. It's worth some $2 billion each year, and indeed, music is one of the few markets in which, at least for now, we do outweigh India. So it's against that background that this conference signifies the awakening of what is set to become a huge contemporary music industry here and in the future decades. I, for one, want to see Australian music make up a good part of it. And the Australian Government, with Sounds Australia, which is our national export music brand, is proudly promoting our music and culture in India and around the world. The ongoing transformation of the music medium as digital technology evolves also presents exciting new possibilities. As a medium for sharing and the distribution of music, the online world, of course, overcomes all sorts of distances between regions and countries. It is today supplying seemingly endless collections of music to people and at an unprecedented rate. Online and digital platforms are growing strongly here in India, and in keeping with a country whose technology sector has advanced so quickly. India, like Australia, is in that space. So again, the opportunities are enormous. The digital transformation also reinvents the methods of music creation. Collaborations can occur in real time and across great distance. And no longer do artists have to involve third parties in the recording or dissemination of their music. It's against this background that in our country we've developed a program called Generate, a program that's encouraged the exploration of some of these opportunities, because you see, music these days isn't just performance, it's the industry, it's the business, and developing the skills and the opportunities in people in understanding that connection is terribly important. There are some members here in the Australian contingent that have been through this program, so I urge those in the Indian audience to make contact and learn more about that program. We are home to many proud musical traditions. With each new generation, each new technology, we see the generation and development of wonderful new creative talents. And last year, Australia, there were almost 42 million attendances at live performances spanning almost 4,000 venues. Our appetite, quite frankly, is insatiable, and it's an industry that supports many jobs in our country. We are a strong supporter not only of this industry, but of the creative industries generally, because not only is there that economic dimension, I think that investment in the creative arts produces an important social dividend, particularly with our youth, because what it does is encourage creativity. It empowers people to find their voices, their expression, a new form of confidence, and the value of free expression and the ability to do it their way, in turn underpinning the values of expression, of tolerance and of inclusion. Also at home, our broadcasters, the national broadcasters, the ABC and SBS, are major vehicles for sharing this music, and they too have embraced the online environment. The ABC's youth radio station, Triple J, can now be streamed anywhere in the world. And it's also created a massive collection of unsigned artists through its Unearthed website, and it's giving them airplay through the Unearthed digital radio station. So, our music industry, quite frankly, is extraordinarily well equipped. Equipped with artists, with promoters, with producers, with broadcasters, and a whole range of other expertises. It therefore has appeal to investors, and it can partner with Indian counterparts to help the development also of your local industry, but importantly, collectively, of both of our industries. Tomorrow I'm going to be joining the Best of Australian emerging bands at the AUSSIE BBQ industry event. Big Scary, Ginger Safari, Carnival, Shepherd, the Ashton Shuffle, they do exemplify the talent that is abundant in Australian music. So I urge as many of you as possible to come along tomorrow night to that. They are a part of a generation of bands which are mixing it with the best of the world. Bands like the Jezebels, Gotcha, and the synth pop acts like Cut Poppy. They're selling out internationally and achieving worldwide acclaim. The Aussie barbecue itself, the symbol of great Australian mateship and gathering, is also therefore symbolic of this growing global influence of our music. And that there's no doubt that the Indian music industry too will grow and diversify in coming years to become a major global industry of its own. I guess my point today is to reinforce this message, that the quality of Australian music and our strong cultural connections with India make collaborations between our musicians, producers and music businesses an obvious goal to set our sights are, and to build on the confidence that that white paper has invested in, saying it's the cultural and creative industries that can be fundamental to a new engagement, a different engagement, a growing and confident engagement in Asia, and specifically here in India. Think about it. Asian music, writ large, has grown astronomically in recent years. America and Great Britain are no longer the meccas of rock and pop and their countless subgenres. Bollywood music, the growth of Korean pop, the K-pop for example, have become powerful music phenomena. New genres with global significance. The groundbreaking single, Gangnam Style, has broken all the records for K-pop. #1 in the UK and Australia, #2 in the US, and 600 million views on YouTube. You wouldn't have thought it looking at it from an Australian audience, but it in many ways exemplifies the way in which we've got to look at where the emerging markets are and the opportunities are and the styles that appeal. While the Australian and the Asian Century White Paper emphasises the need to broaden and deepen our relationships with Asian countries, Ozfest, as it continues to roll out across the country, is an important reminder that Australia's ties to India are long-standing. Indeed, if I reflect on the economic relationship, that is no new phenomena either. These two countries have been trading since 1788. Interestingly, 251 ships used to arrive from India into Australia, carting the necessary commodities and supplies for a fledgling new economy. In turn, there were almost 800 ships that left Sydney for India. You know what their biggest cargo was? Significant. Today we celebrate the return of the Melbourne Cup to an Australian horse, but it was trading horses. Significant numbers of them coming to this country. Interestingly enough, another one of the cooperations that is going on is in the archaeological interpretations as well as the historical depictions of those trading relationships. I had the great pleasure yesterday to visit Humpty. Those of you who are visiting this country, if you get the chance to go down there, it is one of the great world archaeological sites. The Australian connection has been there at the beginning in terms of its archaeological connection. It's there today in the way in which it presents the museum. 3D immersive technology being the museum centrepiece. So, if you get the chance to get there, this visit or any other time, please go, because it is a great example of that cooperation to the advantage of both our great countries. Outside of Ozfest, there are many examples of a cultural fusion occurring between our two countries. SBS's Bollywood Star followed the journey of 6 Australian actors vying to star in Mahesh Bhatt's next Bollywood film. It's given a great opportunity to its winner, a paramedic student from the Gold Coast in Queensland. I should say that it's here in the film industry And given the importance of the film industry to the music industry here in India, this is important for our music industry to understand. We're also in the process of developing a co-production memorandum of understanding with the Indian film industry, and this was one of the key focuses of the Prime Minister's visit here just a couple of weeks ago. While the Australian Government is certainly behind the Australian music industry to support its growth in Australia and abroad, we're also investing in the partnerships with industry to drive that growth. But I want to stress the importance of industry voices advocating for the music art form. Whilst we deliver practical initiatives in Australia, investing in apprenticeships, in internships and residencies to develop the creative and technical music skills in young Australians, it's through SOUNDS Australia that we've invested $1.7 million to build on its export program to increase live music in local venues and encourage international touring artists to use local support acts. Our music industry is an important part of our international business community, and we expect it to continue to be strongly represented here in Asia. Overarching these practical steps at home, we have the development of the National Broadband Network, which plays into all that technology and the technological opportunities I spoke of earlier. We're also, of course, finalising Australia's first national cultural policy in 20 years, a policy that will plug the arts and creative industries into the mainstream of modern Australia, because we know that creative societies also are more productive and more resilient societies. So it's for that reason that we as a government believe it is essential to invest in the arts, and we want to continue to do so into the future. The opportunity for Australia through its creative industries to tell its stories, whether it's in written form, the authors, whether it's in visual form, the film, whether it's in creative expressive form, the music, these are great opportunities going forward. Because at the end of the day, music itself is a creative business. It shouldn't be oversimplified through the spoken word, because its great wonder is in its ability to communicate in a way that simple words cannot. The deep cultural connections between Australia and India are growing, and this conference shows that music is at the vanguard of that change. So I look forward to the day when an Australian contemporary music artist becomes the most popular performer in India. And I also look forward to the day in which an Indian contemporary music artist becomes the most popular performer in Australia. But most importantly, I look forward to the day when it's the musical collaboration between India and Australia that makes number one in both countries. What we're doing through our investment and our engagement is laying the foundation for that to occur. And what this conference does is to provide a solid dynamic on which we can advance it. Music's influence runs deep, and as the world undergoes major economic and social transformation, it will act as a unifier, unconstrained by national boundaries. I encourage you to all play your part in that growth, in strengthening the cultural ties between Australia and India, and as a relationship that still is in its infancy, it has a future where anything is possible. So I urge you to chase the anything and make it possible. Thank you.